Welcome everybody to this week's episode of Breaking the Huddle, brought to you by the News Graphic and our fine sponsors, Moses Inc., for all your lawn care needs. Get things done at this time of year as you get ready for maybe the snow to fly, and of course, SCAD, Scott County Ends Against Drugs. We're calling this episode Ups and Downs because there have been, with the, in many cases, young basketball programs in the county. Let's kind of go over what's happened this week. Big headlines: Great Crossing boys basketball picks up the first win in school history. Now, it took 4 tries and a couple of near misses. They had a buzzer-beating loss against Bryan Station on Friday night at home. Then they went to Paris High School on Saturday, played a tough back-and-forth game with Ryle on a neutral court. Ryle came out on top in that one. Very slow-paced defensive struggle, a 4-point win, 4-point loss for Great Crossing, dropped them to 0-3. Then they went down to East Jessamine, and kind of a similar game to the Ryle game, a little more offense back and forth until Great Crossing took advantage of a run early in the fourth quarter. Jalen Barber had a big night, 17 points, career high for him. They went inside to him on several possessions to get the lead. Michael McKenzie hit some big free throws and shots down the stretch. KJ Tucker had a great game against East Jessamine's leading scorer, shut him down. Long and short of it is the Warhawks came home winners, 60-54. And that's a big thing for them. They just needed some confidence to get rolling, get themselves a win, start to believe. Losing can be contagious, winning can be contagious, and I think from here on out you'll see Great Crossing start to put some wins on the board. It's going to get tough for them, though. This week, Saturday, we'll talk about it with all 4 teams, but the Kentucky-Indiana Challenge Cup, the Hall of Fame Classic, that'll be hosted right here in town at both schools. Great Crossing's got the final game of the night, 8 o'clock, and that one at their home place, so big spot for them, playing Covenant Christian. And then next week, 2 big ones. District, it'll actually be a doubleheader, boys and girls, 41st District opener against Franklin County at home, and then they'll be playing Scott County later in the week, so they'll get to see where they stand very quickly. Speaking of Scott County boys, their opening week was a split on the road. They lost at Bullitt East and then won at Bardstown. Came home for their home opener this past Tuesday night. Had a chance on the cusp. They were down 11 at the half, cut it to 1 late in the third quarter, but fell to a 62-49 defeat against a familiar opponent, Lexington Catholic. That rivalry, of course, one of the most storied ones in the state of Kentucky. Dropped the Cards to 1-2. We're not used to seeing that in recent years. We have to go back to 2012 for the last time the Cards started 1-2. They lost to Ballard and Trinity that year. You may remember they made it to the state final. So all is not lost, but this is certainly a different team from that one. A lot of youth, and you could see the ebb and flow in that game. There were some moments of clarity, and then there were some moments where they threw the ball away on 3 or 4 consecutive possessions, and it really hurt them in the end. But the Cards with a chance to get back on track Thursday night. They host LCA. That's another tough 11th region matchup, and then they will be home at 6 o'clock Saturday night in the Hall of Fame Classic. So taking on Jeffersonville, Indiana. That's not going to be anything to sneeze at either. So a tough schedule early for SC on the boys' side. Let's switch over to the girls, where Great Crossing had a chance in their home opener against a really good opponent in George Rogers Clark, and it just did not go the Warhawks' way. 77-47, the loss on Saturday, but a pretty good game, all things considered. Rachel Smith hit 5 threes. Braylee McMath solid in all aspects as well, and they didn't get running clock. That's a GRC team that's been to state tournaments the past couple of years. They've been deep into that tournament. They've been a tough foe for Scott County. So for a first-year program like Great Crossing to come in and kind of stand toe-to-toe with them most of the day, a good sign. Now they have another tough game Thursday night against Paul Lawrence Dunbar at home, and then they will be tipping off in the Hall of Fame Classic at 2 p.m. Saturday. Hopefully a chance to get their first win, either one of those games. I think if you look at the Indiana opponent, that might be a good spot. All we can really do is kind of scout those teams out on max preps, and it seems like a game that Great Crossing should win. So maybe you'd be there for that one, see some history on Saturday afternoon. How about the Scott County girls? They started off 3-0, just the way we'd expect, averaging 82 points per game. Coach Helton, I know, had some concerns in the preseason, but some of that play may have alleviated some of those concerns, and then, boom, they hit the floor hard against DuPont Manual in Louisville on Tuesday night. 57-30, that's right, 30. If you look back in the record books, Coach Steve Helton was absolutely right When he told me Tuesday night, he thought that was their low point in his career, and it was. I went back and looked at a game against Madison Central. They scored 32 a few years back and 33 against a team from Ohio. But this is a team you can count the number of times they've been under 50 on one hand. It's just going to take some patience with this team. I mean, obviously, at the top end of the roster, you've got Malaya Williams, who had a great game the other night, almost a triple-double. Morgan DeFore, going to Morehead State, is going to end up scoring over 2,000 points in her career. Kennedy Tompkins is strong in the middle. But then there's this big drop-off in experience. Not necessarily talent, but experience. As some very young players who've not been at the varsity level, not had to go on the road and be at a place like Manual and look around and see a unique atmosphere and a very loud building. They just haven't had to do that at the varsity level, so it's going to take some time. But some more home games this December to get the Lady Cards, maybe get some momentum going into the middle meat of the schedule. And that, of course, will begin Friday night. They'll host Pulaski Southwestern, a team that reached the state final last year, a team that Scott County beat handily last year that's probably looking for revenge, so that's not a great spot. But SC will certainly be tested on Friday night. That'll be on the Bird's Nest Broadcasting Network. That'll be actually the second of back-to-back games, as we'll also have the LCA Scott County boys game Thursday. And then Saturday, Scott County girls will play in that Kentucky, Indiana. We better get the right state first. Challenge Cup, and so that'll be a test for them as well. Coach Helton likes playing those out-of-state teams, but this is one he gets on his home court, and maybe a little preparation for down the road when they go to Rock Hill, South Carolina in a couple weeks and see a bunch of teams that they're not familiar with. So, exciting stuff. Maybe some highs and lows, as the title implies for these teams. I want to give a shout-out to a couple of the other winter sports teams. Great Crossing Bowling finished second in a 14-team meet at the Lexington Catholic tournament this past weekend, so props to them. Both wrestling teams off to a hot start. Both went 4-1 over the weekend in separate meets. Scott County hosted the Big Brother Duels, and Eli Camp and Caden Graham both 5-0 in that one. And Great Crossing also went 4-1 at the Madison Central Tomahawk Duels. And both those teams kind of traveling in different ways, so not wrestling against each other anytime soon. We'll see how they do long term, but got to be happy for wrestling because that's one of those programs that with the new school we didn't know what kind of numbers they'd have, but both programs doing well to this point, so good to see. That's all for this week. Hope to see you on the sidelines. Hope to see you out on watching our broadcast, listening to our broadcast the next couple of nights, but also hope to see you out at the Kentucky Indiana Challenge Cup this weekend. Until next time, thanks for joining us.